guess I didn't feel loved as a child. I'm sure I was. But money didn't make me feel loved. So I grew up in South East London with my mum and dad and my brother and my sister. It's not that my childhood was terrible or anything. My parents, loved me, but they were really busy doing their careers as well. So we didn't really have a lot of time together. It's more just about getting to the top. I guess naturally, I've always been quite a kind of friendly, loving, kind of energetic person. But I think in a kind of career-driven world, it's more about yourself. It's not about anybody else. It's what can I do to get ahead, and that just isn't me. To get anywhere in the world, we need each other. I just felt like I'd always been just living out my father's plans for me, and I hadn't really had a chance to be myself. So I thought, well, if I get on a plane and go to another country, they don't know who I am, and I could just be whoever I want to be. I kind of stayed out there for about 2 years. After getting married, me and my husband, we both felt like we were just working for money. And there was never enough money, and you're just miserable. And I felt that I was falling into the same cycle of my parents, and I don't want that. I don't want my children to not see me because I'm too busy earning money. It was a bit of a light bulb moment, really. God just spoke to us both individually, and we felt God sending us to Bulgaria initially. We didn't know anything about Bulgaria, but we'd heard that there was this opportunity for us to go over there and work with orphans, 0 to 4-year-old orphans. And we just really felt that's what God wanted us to do. It was an orphanage of 200 children. Only 2% of the children were actual orphans, 98% were abandoned by their parents. So really we wanted to go over there and support the staff. They don't have the staffing to interact with the children, so nobody plays with them, nobody teaches them how to walk, talk, play. You go into a room of 10 babies, 0 to 6, and nobody's crying. That's not normal. They're not crying because nobody is coming. They know nobody's coming, so they don't cry. You can go into a room of 1 to 2-year-olds, and again, they're either in their cot, or if they're lucky, they've been put into basically a slightly large cupboard, and they're just sat in the corners. A lot of volunteers would go over there with suitcases of clothes and toys. But genuinely, the children didn't want that. The children just wanted you, and I could really relate to that. They just wanted someone to hold their hand, to smile at them. And it was really sad because no one was giving them that. These are babies just in cots all day, children without a family. They've got no one to, fight their corner. They've got no one to encourage them to grow and develop into the people that God wants them to be. And I guess our hearts just bled for them. We were devastated. I remember this one girl who was about 3, and I walked into the room and she couldn't stand, she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk. She just sat in the corner. And so, within just a matter of, say, 4 months, she went from a child that didn't speak, didn't move, to a child that could walk and at least babble, which was her way of trying to communicate with me. And I just felt like, this is a purpose. There was a reason for me being here, was to transform her life, And it was the most rewarding experience of my life, and I never wanted to go back to working just for money ever again. I couldn't. And in that time, we had our own child, our first son, and then I was pregnant with our second child, and I realised that I couldn't actually volunteer anymore. And that's why we came back to the UK. My second son was a big baby when he was born, but very quickly he dropped percentiles and kept dropping percentiles. He had tongue tie, And he was a really fussy baby, you know, one of those babies just always wants to be with you. But I had another baby who also needed me. You know, he was only 18 months old, he needed me as well, very much so. So they were both in nappies, they both needed help feeding, and they both needed naps. And yeah, it was a combination of all of those things that I think led to my depression. I just didn't feel like I could make them be the kids that they were meant to be. I didn't feel like I could do it. And I remember at one point sitting in my car and my friend, I think the children were at nursery, and I was in my car and I just thought I could just drive away right now and they would be better off without me. But thankfully I didn't do that. I went to my friend's house and I cried a lot. And she reminded me that actually I was chosen to be their mum. It wasn't a mistake. That God gave them to me, and he wouldn't have done that if I wasn't what they needed. And I might not have believed it, but I tried to, so I listened to her. So I thought, well, what practically are the things that I can improve? So we were in this really small home, so I thought, well, if I have a bigger home, then the pressure won't be as bad. We can have family come to stay, and that sent us to an area which was really cheap to live because we needed somewhere that was bigger. Its reputation is pretty poor, this area that we felt God wanted us to go to. And I was pretty terrified with the idea of going there. But this house just kept coming back to me. You know, it was massive, and we could definitely, you know, kind of grow old there. You know, there'd be room for us all. I just felt really strongly that, you know, God wanted us to go there. If there was a way that I could find purpose again, then I had to go. But pretty soon, the issues had presented themselves to me personally. So we'd found about 5 syringes out the front of my house. We'd had condoms thrown into our garden because we were on an alleyway. And the fly tipping was everywhere. And I just felt like, you know, I'm trying to do my best for these children, and this is where I've brought them. This can't be right. You know, I cannot let my children grow up thinking it's okay to live like this. I have to do something for them. That I needed to think bigger. And at that time, I had no idea what I could do. It wasn't something I had ever done before. So I set up a Facebook group, and it mainly seemed to be mums that came forward. And I learned that the history of this area had been quite long and painful, and they'd kind of been neglected. Probably touched a few similar nerves to how the children felt in Bulgaria. We put our first funding bid in to improve the park, and we got it, and we couldn't believe we got it. So that was our first thing, was to improve the park. So we put swings in, and we repaired all the broken equipment. It probably took about 100 volunteers from all different places, from the YMCA, from the youth offending team. Businesses came out, local people, all different things. But to see the space now, it feels like somebody cares. And that's what we wanted. But people are saying that, you know, life is now different. Families are saying where before they wanted to get out as soon as they could, you know, now they're feeling like this is their home. I think it's gone from a place of hopelessness to hope, and I think that's the difference. I think the children and the mums are still like a big focus for me, I think, having gone through what I did. So I do focus a lot of what I want to do on families, and it's been so rewarding, and it's what healed me, really. None of the medical treatment made me feel any better, but yeah, spending time with people that needed time, they needed people, they needed relationships, they needed friendships, they needed somebody to tell them that they could change their life, that they had the skills that they needed to change their lives. That's all they needed. They needed somebody just to encourage them and support them, and I could do that. So so I did do that.